I didn't even care when Maggie shot Mr. Smithers.
Mr. Burns!
Why
Oh
would
my
you care
God!
if he shot Mr. Burns? He's an asshole. He also happens to be like 1,000,000 years old, so it's gonna happen sometime.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One,
Steve,
and Sid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Trophy Wars. This is episode 409, take 2. Yes, we tried to record last week, but my audio screwed up.
Isn't this technically take 3? Didn't you all try to record in the middle of last week?
No, that actually didn't happen because Yield didn't show up, and the backup host also bailed out on me.
I was supposed to show up for recording, wasn't I? Ha ha!
Alongside me, the man, the myth, the legend, he's Alex.
Yeah, I had better things to do than show up to record.
Oh, that just makes our listeners feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
You know what? It's that time of the year. Oh, it's the giving time of the year, not the taking. Sorry, I got confused there for a second. You know what? It's cold outside. Well, not specifically today. It was a nice fall day, but it's gonna get cold, and I'm getting my cold heart ready.
He brings the awesome every single week. It's I Yield to No One.
You know, we had a really good episode going, and Tricky lost it.
Well, technically, I didn't lose it. Audacity decided to shit the bed.
Remember all them times you guys made fun of me?
When it comes to technology, Yield, you're not exactly at the forefront of the...
Oh, I never claimed to be.
All right, so listeners, before we actually get the show proper, I just want to say if my audio is off, it's because I'm currently recording on location in New York City outside of Trump Tower working. And you can say what you want about that, but so if my audio is a little shitty, or you hear sirens, or you hear the
to us.
Or if you hear the Secret Service threaten to shoot me because I'm talking on a microphone outside of Trump's tower, you know why.
You've had a good life.
Just make sure we get your audio before they shoot you.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a little of a problem. I'm recording on a handheld recorder, so not even on my real computer. I'm not using my real microphone. And I'm literally sitting inside of a dump
You know what?
truck.
The more chaos that we get on the recording, the more exciting it'll be for our listeners.
Make sure to jump out of the truck and start running and waving your hands like a maniac.
Yeah, right. Let's do our updated trophy count. I am level 53, total trophies of 12,610, with a plat count of 227. Suck it, Daryl. Alex?
Hold on, I was reading a very, very exciting article about PlayStation Now. And by exciting, I mean very tepid. I am level 31 with a total trophy count of 6,924, platinum count of 102 in 101 games.
Woo!
Yield?
Yes?
I hate you. You know the flow of the show, and you do this every single week.
I do. So what?
I was going to say, what are your trophies?
Oh. Well, I'm a level 28 with a trophy count of 5,888. And I got 92 platinums in 92 games. Yes, I got a new one.
What's your new plat, sir?
I will tell that when I get to what I've been playing.
Fair enough. Steve is level 16, total trophies of 2222 with a plat count of 11. Sid is level 39, total trophies of 9292 with a plat count of 169.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I was reading the wrong one.
And I'm not reading the last guy's numbers.
What? Daryl's at level 44 with a trophy count of 9822 with a plat count of 180?
Praise be to King Daryl!
All I heard was a bunch of beeps. That's all I heard.
That's fine. But see, Alex is editing, so that won't happen.
Well, he has to give me the show afterwards, and then that's where I'll put the beeps in.
That's fine. You can do that.
All right, so a little bit more housekeeping. I forgot to mention. Episode. This is 409. Episode 408 is was late getting posted. It currently, as of recording, is not posted. For anybody who doesn't know, the website was shut down because GoDaddy decided to stick a big cock up our asses. So I've been fighting with GoDaddy for.
They didn't
2
even
weeks.
buy me a nice seafood dinner.
I know. At least go took me out for lunch.
So finally got the site back up. We had to move on to our own personal server to accommodate the space because our neighbors were complaining.
Well, la-di freaking da. Join the party or get out of the complex.
You mean like Ned and Maud Flanders, those neighbors, the ones that live right next door to us?
Sure.
Oh, you mean our digital neighbors in the digital space?
Yes, that was a Simpsons reference, and you totally whiffed on it.
I don't watch The
Idly
Simpsons.
hodly.
Oakley dokley.
To give you context of what was going on, GoDaddy, even though we had unlimited space and unlimited bandwidth, decided that we were taking up too much space because apparently while there was no space limit, like I could upload 10 terabytes of information, apparently there is a file limit. So they said that we had too many files on the server, and to give you the equivalent is like Proven Gamer was being hosted in the best analogy I can say is like, say we had an apartment in a 1,000 apartment complex building. So our neighbors were complaining because we were taking up too much space. So essentially, using the analogy, is now instead of living in an apartment, we have our own mansion.
Did we at any point did we tell our neighbors to get good?
No, because I don't know who our neighbors are.
I just told you, Ned and Maud Flanders, which is incredibly creepy because Maud has been dead for years.
If you say so, sir.
She has been.
All right, so let's get into what we're
Can you
playing.
believe this guy, Yield? Maud Flanders falls to her death and he doesn't give a shit.
Nope, doesn't care. Those poor kids, they're motherless now.
So let's get
Okay,
into what
before
we're
we move
playing.
on, I just want to say,
Alex-
let's be honest, the Flanders kids were vapid anyway, so they were lost for a long time.
Okay, is this the Simpsons podcast or is this the Trophy Horse
No,
podcast?
I feel the need to expound
Yes.
upon a point I was making. Add some context to it.
All right, why don't you tell the listeners what you're playing, Alex?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am currently enjoying the newest Grand Prix in Crash Team Racing, the Neon Circus Grand Prix, which runs through November and into December. Still the story of they're supporting Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled 6 months after release. Next month actually will be the 6th Grand Prix they've done post-launch. And even though I'm getting a little burnt out on the whole Crash Team Racing thing because I've been playing for like 5 months straight, 6 months straight, every Grand Prix is pretty well done. So, got to enjoy that. Been playing some Luigi's Mansion 3, and it's fantastic. Love Luigi's Mansion. If you own a Switch, go buy that game. And, honestly, like, looking forward to the holidays, I'm not really looking to buy all that much, except for maybe Pokemon Shield for my Switch. Not a whole lot coming out for the PS4 that I really want to buy. But, yeah, so that's kind of what...
Shield, not sword?
Huh?
You're getting Shield, not sword?
Yeah, have you seen the wolf on the sword box? It looks amazing. Excuse me while I interject for some clarification. Y'all, I meant to say Shield. I want Pokemon Shield. Plus, that one has Galarian Ponyta, and have you seen that magical unicorn? It's great.
And how close are you to the Crash Team Racing plat?
I'm not going to. Like, I've got 101% adventure mode. The last thing I would have to do, single player in this game, not counting like the Grand Prix and stuff, would be to beat all the time trials for nitrous oxide. And guess what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to put myself through that hell. You know what? I will stomp through the marshes of Helldivers again if I do not have to deal with those time trials.
All right. Yield, what are you playing, sir?
Oh, let's see here. I was reading something. So I've been playing some World of Warships.
Get out of here!
I know. A little bit of Wreckfest. A little bit of Rocket League. Doing some Haunted Hollows. And then my most recent game I've been playing is Sniper Elite V2, which I got my platinum about a half hour before we recorded. So I'm at 92 platinums.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It only took me 7 years.
I hear in that list of games is no Rock Band, sir.
Nope, I didn't play Rock Band this week.
Well, you better, because we're going for the Bloodstone.
Or are we close?
Well, we're not close, but if you get in motion, we can get close.
Okay.
All right, and I have been playing some visual novels since the last time you heard, but I actually stopped playing visual novels, mostly because I got so far of a lead on Daryl now that, it would take him about 2 years to catch me.
You mean you're actually playing games you want to play now instead of playing games to beat out Daryl?
Yes, I have been playing more Division 2. I already have that platinum, but something keeps drawing me back to the game. I love that game. And you guys want to guess which game I'm playing currently?
The walking sim that nobody knows what the heck you're doing?
Yes, I'm playing Death Stranding.
You mean GameSpot's 6 point something Death Stranding? 6.8 or something like that?
No, that was IGN.
Okay, IGN. And Joe Priestley from over on the Game Stuff podcast, he really was excited to share that news, the game that Death Stranding got a very mediocre review.
Yeah, and you know what Mr. Joseph Priestley is playing currently right now?
Simpsons Hit and Run.
Nope, Death Stranded. Yeah, I'm about, I'd say 7 hours into the game, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. I know I'm delivering packages, but...
So it's a UPS simulator?
I know what a BT is, I know what a BB is, but something along in the games, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not really, because I couldn't spoil it, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Apparently, I have a fear of being touched, and I have something called dooms. But I'm also one of the only humans in the world currently that when I die, I'm immediately reborn.
So wait, is that you or anybody who plays through the game? Like, is that character just given those same powers, or do you, through your choices in the game, earn certain powers and abilities?
No, that's everybody in the game.
Well, shit, you're sitting here talking like you're special.
Yeah, it's a little weird, like...
A little?
Yeah, it's definitely full-on Kojima game. That's, yeah, it's definitely a Kojima game. They say that the game really, starts opening up after hour 10, so I'm 2.5 hours away from that.
And you're like still 140 hours from the platinum.
That's what I hear. I don't know. I mean, I know I've unlocked 20% of the trophies already, but I haven't looked at the trophy list. And from what I understand, a lot of the trophies are hidden anyway. So even if I looked at the list, I wouldn't know what the hell to do.
I hear it's a straightforward game to platinum too.
Say again?
I hear it's a straightforward game to platinum too.
Yeah, I know CJ, because I talk to CJ all the time. He was getting annoyed by it because I this is a little bit of a spoiler for the game, but it's like the second and third mission you do, so it's not really like spoiling anything. The president dies, and you have to transport their body to the incinerator, so the fumes from their body doesn't attract the BTs. And I know CJ got to that point and was like, fuck this game. I'm not carrying a dead body on my back.
I don't know if you saw, but there was a joke online. I saw it on Facebook, and I'm trying to find out so I can get proper credit. But it says that that Death Stranding starts to really be enjoyable after 10 hours, and then the joke was that, hey, you know how long it takes to have fun in Luigi's Mansion? 10 seconds as soon as you see Toad try to drive a big-ass van, or a big-ass bus.
Yeah, I saw that meme.
I haven't seen that, but that sounds amazing. Speaking of which, how is Luigi's Mansion?
One of the things I noticed first about the game is that Nintendo's really billed this as one of its like big AAA games. Like the first Luigi's Mansion, it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of like a cult hit, but I don't feel like it was given as much respect as like, say, Mario Sunshine or a lot of the other big games that came out for the GameCube, because even if it was the launch game for the GameCube, they still had Super Smash Bros. Melee come out that December, so that was really the big holiday game. Now, of course, they've got Pokemon Sword and Shield to come out, and it's coming out at the end of this week. But Luigi's Mansion 3 feels like it's the big Nintendo game. People say, oh, hey, they've got, Mario Odyssey, they've got Breath of the Wild, they've got Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and hey, Luigi's Mansion 3. Like, I love all these games. Like, it's just another piece of the puzzle that makes the Switch really enticing. It's just a really fun game. Like, the cool aspect of it is it's set in a hotel, and you have to work your way up the hotel by going to different floors and collecting, beating a boss ghost on each floor to collect an elevator button to put in the elevator panel, because they've all been taken at the beginning, to stop your progress. Collect all the buttons to get to the top of the hotel, and, there's gems to collect, and, secret booze to find, and, apparently there's a hidden boss fight. It's a meaty game, certainly a lot bigger than the original Luigi's Mansion, but, like I said, they put a ton of effort into this game, and you can tell, because the first Luigi's Mansion, you, see Luigi walking up the path, he goes in the door, and the game starts pretty quickly after that. This game is a good 20 or so minutes, I would say, of just, story expose before you actually get to where you can control Luigi and, kind of travel around, and even then, there's still a little bit more tutorial stuff to it. So, yeah, it feels like the big game, and the big game that Luigi deserves, and they've given it the respect it deserves, and the game looks great. You can see, the little, pockets, or, the little, textures of Luigi's denim, overalls. The game itself looks really good, and it's really fun, so, yeah, it has a different feel than the original Luigi's Mansion, but the concepts are still there, and it's still extremely fun. It's just a bigger overall game that, I think that a lot of people would really enjoy.
Awesome. I'm trying to talk my wife into getting a Switch, because Luigi Mansion 3. So, Tricky, how's Death Stranding?
Hold on, before you go on. If you haven't played Luigi's Mansion or you're getting ready to start, please do yourself a favor and watch the way that Professor Egad runs. It is the most ridiculous run I've ever seen. It's like you would run around a room for hours just to watch him run. It's magnificent. Just sorry, go ahead.
But the real question, Alex, though, is how is Gooigi?
It's a really cool mechanic. Gooigi is basically like a clone of Luigi that you can use to solve puzzles. So, I didn't know really what he was used for at first. If he was kind of like a ghost you had to catch, or if he was like some kind of nemesis of Luigi. But no, he's a helper, clone of Luigi that actually factors into puzzle solving. So, a lot of this game is puzzle solving and just collecting. And, it's done really well.
All right. As far as Death Stranding goes, like I said earlier, I'm just getting into it. It's a lot of walking. I did just get my first motorcycle, but apparently, you can't really utilize the motorcycle the way that you would want, because you're traveling over a lot of grass, and it has a bunch of rocks in it, and every time you hit a rock, you damage your bike. And, I'm just getting into it. I got some of the story so far. I have a basic understanding of what the hell I'm doing, but it's still very confusing. I'm hoping that when I hit that 10-hour mark that it really opens up and lets me really go. But just like any other Kojima game, it's 20 minutes of gameplay, 2 hours of cutscenes.
Awesome.
All right, so let's get into our topics. Our first topic is our PlayStation Plus games. Now, I know this show is coming out a little late, and you probably already know this news, but I figured I'd ask the gentlemen here how they feel about the games we're getting. The two games we're getting for PlayStation Plus this month are Neo and Outlast 2. Now, if anybody doesn't know, Neo is basically like a harder Dark Souls type of game, and Outlast 2 is a horror game. Gentlemen, you interested in either one of these games?
No.
I will say that neither of the games, upon looking at them, has ever interested me, but, if the gauge is lower and I can get it for free and just check it out, there's no harm in, just downloading them and trying them out for a little bit. But I will say that, since I'm currently still trying to finish Luigi's Mansion, and they just put out the new Grand Prix for Crash Team Racing, and Pokemon Sword and Shield come out later this month, or within the next week, I'm probably, if I do download them, I'm probably not going to play them this month, which also means I'm probably not going to play them at all because they're just going to keep falling further and further down. So.
Well, Neo, I know you got the platinum in Bloodborne. Neo is that type of game.
No. Solid no for me.
All right. Let's move on to our next topic. PlayStation 4 lifetime sales rise above 100 million. This article is coming from IGN. Sony has officially sold and shipped 102.8 million PlayStation 4 units, making it the second best-selling home console of all time. Alex, you have a guess of which one is the number one platform?
PlayStation 3?
PlayStation 2.
Color me a dumbass.
With these figures, the PlayStation 4 now has surpassed Nintendo Wii's 101.6 million and the original PlayStation's 102.5 million, but has not managed to eclipse the PlayStation 2, which maintains its position at the top-selling spot with a staggering 155 million units sold in its lifetime. When adding handheld gaming devices, PlayStation 4 is in the fourth spot, closing in on the Game Boy Color's 118.69 million units, and the DS family at 154 million.
Well, that's not really fair. You can't bundle all the DSs together and call that one console. Then you could bundle together all the PlayStations.
Thank you, Alex.
Well, technically with the PlayStation 4, they're bundling the Slim, the OG PlayStation 4, and the Pro
but
together.
The 3DS and the 2DS and the original Nintendo DS are all different consoles. They're not the same console. It's not an upgrade. In the vein of, like, the PlayStation 4 Slim.
Well, the 2DS and 3DS are basically playing the same games. Only the 2DS doesn't have that 3D screen on it.
I still call bullshit on
but
that.
yeah, it's... Okay. Well, it's also worth noting that PlayStation now holds 4 of the top 5 spots on the all-time home console, with the PlayStation 3 coming in 5th. I thought that was really interesting news. The next bit of news, Yield. I know you cut the cable with with cable. But the hold
That's
on.
New York traffic for you, baby. Someone's pissed off.
Yes.
Well, at least we haven't heard a thud.
Yeah. Well, I'm not driving. I don't have a chance of running over somebody's mirror today. All right. So, Yield, I know this topic is going to be interest to you. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. No more. Because I know you cut the cable with, home cable. But PlayStation Vue TV is stopping service as of January 30th, 2020.
That's a bummer because I heard it was good.
The company cites a hugely competitive field and desire to focus on its core gaming business as reasons why it's pulling out of the TV streaming business. Quote, today we are announcing that we will shut down PlayStation Vue service on January 30th, 2020. Sony Interactive Deputy President John Cuerda writes in a new blog post. Unfortunately, the highly competitive pay TV industry with expensive content and network deals has been slower to change than we expected. Because of this, we decided to remain focused on our core gaming business. PlayStation Vue launched in 2015 as a cable-cut internet service. Members could watch several TV channels over the internet, including channels like CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, Universal, and more, starting at $40 a month. In 2018, PlayStation Vue reported to have 745,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Now,
that's a lot.
Well, yes, but when you consider that there's 100 million consoles out there. Now, they did say that you're still going to be able to watch Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that on the system, but Sony's first-party offer will no longer be available after January 30th. Now, for people that cut the cord, because Alex, I think you cut the cord too, didn't you?
I haven't had cable for a long time. It's a waste of money. You know what's saving the cable companies and cable in general is sports. If sports were not around, like if people didn't have to have cable or Dish Network or whatever to watch NCAA, NBA, NFL, like I feel like cable would go die.
Well, I thought you could watch all those over the internet, like on your computer and stuff.
I mean, I guess you can if you find the outlets, but I feel like you have to have some kind of subscription to watch them.
I'm not. I don't subscribe to any of those, so I'm not exactly sure on the technicalities of it. But with services out there like YouTube TV, Hulu, Sling, and all the other
How
ones.
do you not mention Netflix?
Well, because Netflix isn't a TV service. Like you can't watch live TV over that with Hulu and Sling.
But no, it can completely replace TV because we have Hulu and Netflix, and also Amazon Prime Video because Ashley's a Prime member. But we almost always watch Netflix except for a few shows. So Netflix can completely replace television because they have their own TV style shows that they're releasing.
Hold on. Ashley's a Prime member?
Yes.
Oh, now you've done it.
Why is she not subscribed to our Twitch channel then?
I don't know, because she doesn't watch Twitch.
Still, it's a free subscription to us. Giving the site money, it's her way she can support us.
Well, here's the short answer to that, is that I didn't tell her she could do that, so she probably didn't know.
Well, she listens to the show every week when I say it.
I think she just skips to my shout-outs and then quits listening.
Oh, you mean your shout-outs where you forget to mention her?
I've done that, once?
Yeah.
No, but Tricky, do you have cable still?
I do have cable still.
How much do you pay per month for cable?
That's kind of hard to answer because I have the cable and the internet bundle, and I'm paying like $180 a month. To be fair, me and the guys have been talking about cutting the cable, but it's because I watch Netflix more. I only use my cable to catch up on TV shows before Netflix gets them and to watch Ranger games. So, I mean, I've been thinking about cutting the cable, but I haven't really looked into Sling, or I was going to look into PlayStation View, but that now that's shutting down. That's not an option.
Well, Tricky, let me ask you a question. With how much you work and how much you sleep because you work weird hours and how much you play video games, do you really need cable? Like, how much TV can you consume?
I don't really watch my TV. The only time I watch Raw, I watch NXT, I watch AEW, I watch SmackDown, but that's all DVR, and I watch that basically when the weekend comes. I watch them back to back to back to back, and I think they go. I think they're on Hulu the next day, so I could watch that.
Tricky, you're watching 7 hours of wrestling there, or 9 hours of wrestling. That's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot. But to be fair, I basically, unless I'm watching a pay-per-view, I basically fast-forward the matches and just listen for the storyline so I know what the hell's going on that's leading into the pay-per-view. All right, let's get back on topic. I mean, before shutting down, were either of you guys interested in trying out PlayStation View?
I was considering it because a buddy at work tried it and said it was pretty good.
I mean, it's a point that I made when I was talking to you earlier, Tricky, is that I only have so much time to consume television, and I generally I'll watch videos on YouTube, I'll watch Netflix, and sometimes I'll watch stuff on Amazon Prime like Carnival Row and a few other things, but I just don't have enough time to justify owning or paying that much for a cable service or television service when I could pay $14 a month for Hulu and watch free content on YouTube all the time.
I mean, and that's a fair point. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Head of PlayStation on why you won't see games like God of War and Spider-Man on PlayStation Now at
This is
launch.
such a bullshit reason.
This is coming from VG247.com.
They got it from somewhere else, Tricky.
Okay, hold on. Let me I'm trying to find where they got it from. All right, look where they got it from.
VG247 never posts original content. They're just a hub for everyone else's content.
Okay, fair enough. Let me get to the article here. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan has revealed Sony's reason for why it doesn't launch its biggest exclusives on PlayStation Now. He addressed the criticisms directed at a PlayStation when it comes to embracing new ways of doing things. Although Sony has upped its investment in streaming, more recently with a 50% price cut for PlayStation Now, the service is still mostly populated by classic titles. The PlayStation 4's biggest games, such as God of War, are only made available for a limited time and months after their initial release. This is a stark contrast to Microsoft's approach, who's happy to make its first-party games available on many platforms as possible and through different business models, chief amongst them through Xbox Game Pass. Quote, "It's an area that is fast-changing and fluid," Jim Ryan said in an interview with Games Industry.
GamesIndustry.biz is where this came from.
Okay. The nature and scale of some of the first-party games that we're making leads us to think that right now it's better to spend energy on making sure that the launch of those games is a massive entertainment event. I would cite God of War and Spider-Man and The Last of Us Part 2 next year will fall into that category. With that said, Ryan reiterated this is a stance isn't final and the company is open to making its premier first-party content more readily available. He said, "I don't want to say this, that the PlayStation Now is going to be like this forever. Personally, right now, given how some of our first-party IP is incredibly special and valuable, we just want to treat them with amazing care and respect and have those launches be clean and pure."
You want me to translate for you? Translation, we want you to pay $60 for these new games instead of paying a subscription service to be able to play them.
That's smart.
I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but at the same time, like, Microsoft is giving away, like, is putting their first part, as the article said, is putting their first party games, like their new exclusives, on a service like that. Why can't Sony? Also, like, don't sit here and give us this bullshit reason that we could see through, like, this phantom, like, veil thin fucking reason that we can, like, easily be like, oh yeah, you actually just want to get as much money from us as can. If that's the reason, fucking own it and say, hey, these games cost a lot of money to make, and we want to try to make as much money as we can so that we can put that money into other projects, pay our studios better, pay our team members better. Give us the actual reason instead of some malarkey.
Well, to give contrast, and I don't know how much truth there is to this, but Microsoft has come out and said that games like Gears of War, Sea of Thieves, and all their first-party games, they actually sell a shitload of copies, even though it's on Game Pass, where people are paying, for Game Pass and playing it for free. That a lot of those people are then turning around and actually buying the game at full price.
Well, also, Ashley has just gotten like a month-long subscription to Xbox Live, and she's actually playing a trial of Outer Worlds, which is one of the biggest games for this year, and she's basically playing through the entire game. And all she'd have to buy the game. She's just has a subscription to Xbox Live for a month, and she can play that entire game if she wants.
The Outer Worlds I hear is Fallout New Vegas, basically done better.
Well, it's like a Western in space, and yes, there are it's got like a very Fallout feel to it. Sorry, I lost my words there, but yes, it has a very Fallout feel to it because I watched her play some of it.
Well, it's made by the same people that made Fallout New Vegas.
Well, Fallout hasn't gotten the best treatment recently, so it's nice to see that people who like that style of game can play a really good Fallout-style game. Although I'm sure there's plenty to differentiate Outer Worlds from, the Fallout series.
All right, Yield, how do you feel about games like God of War, Spider-Man, and The Last of Us 2 not being on PlayStation Now until months later?
I'm okay with that. If you want to play them, you buy them. Because if you know that you can end up buying them getting a subscription service for it, then you'll just pay the cheaper subscription service and not pay the money.
How is that any different from waiting until a game comes to PlayStation Plus for free or until it goes on sale at a discount?
Well, if you're wanting to play it, you'll go buy it, and if you're on the fence, you'll wait. So if you're willing to wait and not play it right away, and they put it on PlayStation Now 6 months, a year down the road, and you're okay with that, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, like I said, Microsoft is saying that like Gears 5 still sold even though it was on Games Pass. So, I mean, I don't know. I find it hard to believe because I'm kind of with you, Yield, about the fact that if I could pay $10 to play the game rather than paying $60 for the game, because you're paying $10 for a month and you could beat the game in a week, or arguably say less than a month. That you could pay the $10, play the game, and have everything else to play, and save yourself $50.
I just my wish is that I want more transparency out of game makers, and especially don't lie to me with this comment. Just tell me if you want to make more money off a game before you put it on subscription service. Say that.
All right, so our last topic before we go into our topic of the week.
Well, here's another point that I'll make to that. There's a little DLC. So imagine if Sony puts God of War onto PlayStation Now, and sales. A lot of people play the game on PlayStation Now, but in some way that cannibalizes sales of the game. And then they go to their investors meetings and they say, "Yeah, God of War sold a million copies because people are playing on PlayStation Now instead of buying it." That's really going to hurt their financial outlook and make investors and people look at them and be like, your biggest games are only selling this many copies. What are we doing supporting you?
Right, but on the contrast of that, they say that PlayStation Now is very successful, that they have millions of people that subscribe to it. So if they're making, what is it, $10 a month for a PlayStation Now, you get that over the course of a year, that's $120, where some people only buy one game a year or two games a year. I mean, I'm not saying that's the norm, but at least they're getting guaranteed money for people with PlayStation Now, then that one sale and it'd be over. Because God of War, to its credit, never had DLC. They sold the base game and that was it. They never did DLC
Yeah,
for
but
it.
when Sony goes into those financial calls, that they would rather say, "Yeah, God of War sold 10 million copies." Because you got Nintendo over here talking about 10 million copies of Pokemon, 10 million copies of Super Smash Brothers, 10,000 million copies of Mario Kart. When they go into those investor meetings, they want those new games, the Horizon Zero Dawns, the God of Wars, The Last of Us Part 2. They want these games to rack up big numbers so they can share that with their investors to show how successful these games are. Whereas if they're part of a pool of games in a subscription service, they don't stand out quite as well, and those sales don't stand out quite as well, and it makes it look like Sony isn't as successful, even if they're making money off of PlayStation Now. Because how often do they mention PlayStation Now sales, or how much money they're making off of PlayStation Now?
Well, I mean, we get that every 3 to 6 months. We get a call about what's going on with PlayStation Now. But I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm of two minds about it. I mean, if they could put it on now, I think it would boost their sales for PlayStation Now, and you get a lot more people subscribing to it. Because a lot of people through the launch of PlayStation Now look at it as a joke because of how the bundled the launch of it was. But it's severely improved.
But do you think it matters now to people? Because people have this idea in their head of what PlayStation Now is and how it's been kind of dragging behind for, however many years it's been out. Even if they've made improvements, it's still probably an afterthought to most people. And even they put God of War and other new releases on there, is it really worth it? Because at this point, are people going to change their minds about PlayStation Now?
I think if you bring out The Last of Us Part 2 and you announce that it's going to PlayStation Now day one, I think there's going to be a significant amount of people that are going to try out PlayStation Now to play Last of Us Part 2 cheaper and be hooked by the changes they made, and it may change a lot of minds.
Well, let me ask you, can you just buy a month of PlayStation Now?
Yes.
So you buy a month of PlayStation Now for The Last of Us Part 2, and then you end your subscription after that month, and you've gotten the $60 game for $10.
Correct, and basically that's the same thing with Game Pass. But I'm thinking they're willing to make the bet that once they get that first month for people to get to play The Last of Us Part 2, that the service in general is going to hook them and that they're going to stay on and subscribe because of the hundreds of other games they could play for the same price. I think if Sony was willing to gamble, I think that's a gamble that worth trying, because if they get them hooked, then it's a guaranteed money, where they just made one sale and moved on. I think Sony's would be smart to make that gamble, because I think it would actually hook people. I'm just saying, if they can bring a big blockbuster game onto the service to get people to try it out, I think they're willing to take that gamble and say that people will stay subscribed or will buy year subscriptions or whatnot, because that's guaranteed money in their pocket, where they may or may not, make any more money off The Last of Us Part 2 after the initial sale. And you don't have to worry about printing the disc. You don't have to worry about downloading the game. You don't have to worry about, going to your local GameStop or Best Buy and it being out of stock and not being able to play it. It's like, boom, it's on your console. Here you go play it. And then people see how good PlayStation Now is compared to where it was when it launched. And it's worth the gamble. And I think they're willing to say, let's try this out. What do you think about the gamble? You think it's worth them trying it?
No.
All right.
Well, hold on, Yield. Why do you feel like it's not worth gambling on?
To be honest, I wasn't paying much attention. I was looking at something else and I just went with no.
He flipped a coin
and
came up with his answer.
I did.
I knew when he said no after a long pause. I knew he wasn't really paying attention. That's why I moved on. All right. So our last topic is Guerrilla's Herman Holst has taken over Sony Worldwide Studios as Shuhei Yoshida is moving over to the Indies. We've talked about the shakeup at Sony. Alex, you have said that you don't think a lot of people care about the executives over at Sony, but there are a lot of moves happening here. This article is coming from IGN, written by Alicia Judge. Sony is continuing its leadership shakeup ahead of the PlayStation 5 launch as Shuhei Yoshida steps down from his Worldwide Studios presidency to helm a new indie-focused venture. Meanwhile, Guerrilla Games co-founder and managing director Herman Holst is the new head of Worldwide Studios, effective immediately.
Wait, I just want some clarification. Is Shuhei Yoshida still part of Sony, or did he step down to become part of another, smaller company?
No, he's still with Sony. He's just heading up Sony's indie division.
Well, to comment on the story itself, I think Mr. Hurst will do a very good job in his role.
Well, actually, if you didn't cut me off, I could have answered Yoshida. In the article, it says Yoshida's switch in focus to independent developers is part of a wider push by Sony to bring in fresh talent. His initiative will nurture external indie studios that PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan has called, quote, the lifeblood of the industry. Speaking to GamesIndustry.biz, Ryan said Yoshida will ensure that the entire SIE organization works better to better engage with independent developers through a culture of supporting and celebrating their contribution to PlayStation platforms.
Well, I mean, you made mention of this, Tricky, about how there's been a lot of shakeups in the higher-ups at Sony. I mean, Kaz Hirai has left in recent years. You've also had Sean Layden and Andrew House leave, and now you have Shuhei Yoshida. So a lot of the figureheads are kind of taking on different roles, taking on lesser roles, or just leaving the company altogether. And as a tried-and-true Sony fanboy, Tricky, do you have issues with that? Are you concerned about that so many people are, kind of stepping away from their current roles?
It concerns me because of the fact that Sony with the PlayStation 4 has been killing it. Like, every decision Sony made with the PlayStation 4, as far as the games, the direction of which it headed, they're killing it. And it's in a way, it's making Microsoft look bad in their sales, but in reality, Microsoft is still killing it as well. Like, they've passed what they've done with the 360. They're beating all their sales records too, but Sony doing so well has made it look like Microsoft is failing. And now you have all these major shakeups. I mean, you got Sean Layden that left. You got Kaz Hirai that's left. You got Adam Boyes is left. Shuhei's now stepping down. And Shuhei, for argument's sake, has been the face of Sony. Like he was the one that Sony pushed out as their little quote unquote mascot.
Well, I mean, he did a lot of he was one of the big Sony execs pushing Until Dawn after it came out, and and praising Supermassive Games' work in that. So, I mean, the smaller, lesser-known games, not that Until Dawn's a small game, but a lesser-known game, to get it out there, he may be the perfect person to head that up. And I think that what we've seen, especially, in the wake of the death of Satoru Iwata over at Nintendo, is that a game company is more than just its figurehead and the faces of that company, because while Iwata was a tremendous influence within that company and a great president, Nintendo is still doing amazingly well.
Right, and you also got Gio Corsi, who, for what it's worth, was the man pushing the Vita. They put Gio Corsi in the role to head up the Vita division, and then 2 months later, they basically said the Vita was dead, and then Gio Corsi took over the second party studios. Now, second party, is kind of like a dead term in the games industry now, because there's no really second party games anymore. But you got Gio Corsi left, and now, not that I think Herman Hulst won't do a good job, but it concerns me that they took Herman Hulst away from Guerrilla. I mean, so how does that affect the production of Horizon 2?
I mean, I've always said this, if Shigeru Miyamoto leaves Nintendo and stops making, Zelda games and stops overseeing Mario games, they'll still be fine because there's so many talented people working for that company. You have teams of hundreds of people working. It's not like the ship falls apart if, one person leaves. Now, I understand that, with Hideo Kojima in that situation and how the Metal Gear Solid franchise has not been what it was since he has been gone, there can be missteps by teams, and, losing some of that direction can hurt. But when it comes to Sony and Nintendo, they're not Konami. I don't see Konami as polished of a publisher or developer as, Sony or Nintendo.
Right, but, I mean, you look at Naughty Dog. Amy Hennig left mid-production of the Uncharted 4, and, a lot of people say Uncharted 4 was a great game, but a lot of people also criticize, saying it's not as great as it could have been because Amy Hennig left.
I think, Amy Hennig certainly deserved credit for all the work she put into those games and the work she's put into video games in general, the industry. But those games did not live and die on Amy Hennig's work. They were still fantastic games without her involvement. So I think you're giving her a little bit too much credit there.
I'm not saying good or bad. What I'm saying is,
around the time of Uncharted 2, did you have any idea who Neil Druckmann was?
Granted, I'm probably a little bit more informed with those type of stuff because I have a lot of I often get a lot of background information that I'm not allowed to share out to the public. So I knew who Neil Druckmann is, but to your argument, I would say 90% of the general public probably had no idea who the hell he was. But then, going on, you got Bruce Straley that left after Uncharted 4, took a leave of absence from Naughty Dog, and then just has never returned. So, and Bruce Straley was part of the production of The Last of Us. So now you got The Last of Us Part 2 in production, and Bruce Straley has no part of that. Now, I think Neil Druckmann is with Neil Druckmann's hands on it, it's in very capable hands. But when you have big figureheads that are leaving mid-stuff, mid-production or, pre-PlayStation 5 launch, I think that's very concerning. I mean, I trust Sony will do the right thing. I certainly hope that Sony doesn't turn back into the Sony of the PlayStation 3 where, you'll go get a second job to buy our console. But I don't think they're going to turn back to that, but I think this is concerning that a lot of major players in what made the PlayStation 4 successful are either leaving or switching positions. That finds very concerning to me.
I mean, I can see, maybe you look at it as turmoil, but, a lot of people, Kaz Hirai has put in his work in the video game industry, and I think that, you don't want to work forever. In anything you do, you don't want to work forever. So I see him and, Shuhei Yoshida switching roles as, their choice that there is another path for me and I could be doing something else that I preferred to what I'm currently doing. I've done this for so long that I would like to do something else. And maybe that was the case with everybody else who left Sony. while there may be people who come and go, and in some cases a lot of people come and go, or a lot of people go all at once, or in close succession to one another, I still don't see this as turmoil, and I don't think it's anything to be concerned about, because Sony at its heart, like, Sony is a machine at this point, and there's so many people working there, and like every time someone leaves, someone comes up to fill that spot, and we don't really see a hiccup in the production of PlayStations, or in like the delivery of games, or the improvements of software. Like, we don't really see a hiccup in any of that. We never have.
Well, I mean, what's also concerning me is, I mean, we talked about it, when we had Daryl on the show, the whole situation with Sean Layden leaving. That to me is still very concerning. Like, Sony has never mentioned anything about it other than, a tweet. Like, that's the guy that ran Sony, America. Like, that's a major position, and the guy just leaves, and you don't give him no fanfare. He's just out the door, and it's like, here's a tweet, and they didn't even tag him in the tweet. Like, that to me that's very concerning.
Maybe
to me.
He took someone's lunch out of the fridge and ate it himself.
Well, I mean, it's just like, and we never, like, only through like articles like this where we're finding out that Jim Ryan actually took over Sean Layden's position. But then Jim Ryan's also the guy that said that we're not going to do crossplay because we got to protect the children.
Yeah, I mean, his excuses for why Sony makes the decisions they do are pretty rancorous. They're pretty terrible.
You've been kind of quiet. How do you feel about all this?
It makes you wonder if something hanky's going on behind the scenes. That's kind of where I am. I do fear that Sony will go back to the stages of the PS3 where we're Sony and you'll buy us no matter what. So we'll just have to see how these new guys in new positions do. But there's too many coincidences of people shifting within the company or leaving altogether for it to be just a coincidence that we all left at the same time.
To be fair, Kaz Hirai left long enough ago where I don't think you could bunch him in with everybody else.
I'm talking about Layden and
Gio Corsi.
Yeah.
Like, these are major names within the company. Now, granted, Shuhei didn't leave the company. He just moved over. But, like you pointed out, Alice, he was always the champion of the indies to push the lesser-known games out to the forefront. So, now instead of having to be in charge of everything, he's focusing on what, he wants to focus on.
And like I said, at some point, when even if, everyone looks at Sony as like, or Nintendo as like, if I could work there, that'd be the most amazing thing ever. At some point, even if you work for those companies, you want out. It's why bands don't last forever. Well, Father Time also. But that's why bands don't last forever, and people who make games, and like, they don't, like, studios, people leave studios. Like, Masahiro Sakurai works on Super Smash Bros., and to a fan, you would think that'd be so much fucking fun to watch Smash Brothers, but this is supposed to be his last Smash Brothers, and he's like in his 40s. He could do this for 20 more years, but he's choosing not to. So, the same old thing, or the same position, like, even if you work for a video game company that everyone thinks would be the bee's knees to work for, you don't want to do the same thing for the rest of your life.
I mean, and to your point, I mean, you look at Kojima. Kojima long said he wanted to make another game besides Metal Gear, and part of the rumors of why him and Konami split is because they forced him to make another Metal Gear game, and I mean, the Metal Gear games are good, and but 5 felt incomplete, and it seemed like a little bit half-assed. I mean, that's arguably because of the way the split went down, but I get to you that, like, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again, but as I said on the show when we did it with Daryl, it's like, it doesn't bother me so much that these figureheads are leaving. It's that they're leaving going into a major release of a console. Like, I even if I didn't want to do a job anymore, I would still see it through to the end.
You're talking about another year before the release of the PlayStation 5.
Right.
Why should
but
someone have to spend another year of their life working for Sony if there was something else they would be more passionate about at this point in their life?
I would understand that if it was one person, but this is multiple people in major roles that are all leaving.
But these are also talented people who could find jobs elsewhere. It's not like they're taking a bunch of like low-level employees and you've got a mass exodus from Sony. These are all higher-ups, talented people that have been in the spotlight, have been at Sony for a long time, put in their work, and maybe they just found, I'm sure they're desirable hires for other companies.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. All right, so let's move on to our topic of the week, because this kind of involves the PlayStation 5 as well. Ubisoft has delayed several games, including Watch Dogs Legion, Rainbow Six Quarantine, Gods and Monsters, and announced that not only are they now delayed, but they're also going to be next-generation PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlet games. Now, when I say that, they're still coming out on the PlayStation 4, but now they're also coming out on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Scarlet. Other than the games being delayed and that, I mean, that's really the only news. But the reason I put this in the topic of the week is because Xbox Scarlet and PlayStation 5 have both been announced to have backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4 games and Xbox One games. Like, is it concerning to you that a company like Ubisoft or various other companies, because we know like The Last of Us Part 2 is also going to be on the PlayStation 5, like, should we be concerned that these companies are making better versions for the newer systems and still trying to sell it on our current consoles to make money until the PlayStation 5 and Scarlet launch?
Well, we certainly hope not. That was the whole reason of they assured us that with the Pro, you weren't going to get a better game on the Pro than you were the 4, so you would hope, at least for Sony's aspect, that they're not pushing that.
I mean, but you have to ask yourself, even with like the Sony exclusives, are we going to see a better version of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima for the PlayStation 5? So why buy it for the 4?
Well, that kind of my point is, like, if I know that, see, I'm of two minds of this, because everybody knows that listens to the show that I'm highly anticipating The Last of Us Part 2. I'm going to want to play it on launch day. But would the smarter option be for me to wait until the PlayStation 5 comes out and buy it there and play it there? Because arguably that's going to be the better version of the game. But on the flip side of that argument, if I buy it for the 4, I know that when the PlayStation 5 comes out, I'm still going to be able to play the game that I bought, and it's probably going to be rendered up as far as sound and loading times and graphics. So what's the point of releasing it on both if you could just play the PlayStation 4 versions of them?
Oh, well, you got a point there. I would say launch bundles.
Because people have to have something to play on the PlayStation 5 when it launches.
Right, but what I'm saying is, every PlayStation 4 game you have right now is going to be playable on the PlayStation 5. So, arguably, the PlayStation 5 is going to launch with a full library. But then, they're also going to be selling PlayStation 5 versions of the games. So, why would I buy the PlayStation 5 version if I already have it for the 4?
Or why buy it for the 4 and just wait for it to come out on the PS5?
Well, I mean, you know me, like, just using me as an example, I'm a crazy man. I'm going to buy The Last of Us Part 2 when it launches.
Oh, you'll buy 10 copies because you have to have 7 copies mint condition left in the package.
Right. But not everybody's going to do that. So, my point of this topic of the week is, why would anybody buy a PlayStation 5 version if they know they can play their PlayStation 4 version? And then, on the flip side, like, if I know the PlayStation 5 version is going to be better, why would I buy it for the PlayStation 4? Like, I think it's cannibalizing itself. You're going to have people that are going to be waiting for the games to come out, and then, what kind of issues are you going to have with the PlayStation 5? Because as Donnie used to say, the first run of every console is basically people beta testing it until they work out all the kinks.
The scientific community would refer to those as guinea pigs.
But like I'm saying, like I'm gonna buy it, but I'm not, I'm unique. Like I'm in the fact that I'm a crazy man, and like you said, I'll buy 5 versions of something. Like I got 5 PlayStation 4s at home, and I got 3 of them out, and 2 of them are still in the boxes. I got 1 on the way. I got the Death Stranding PlayStation 4 coming. But
okay, so Tricky, you're going to buy a PlayStation 5 as soon as you can. What do you think is going to be the big launch game that you're going to be playing with that new purchase?
If I had to predict, I would say Horizon 2.
Okay, did you listen to my conversation with Yield about that?
On the last episode, I listened to it, but I don't remember. Refresh my memory.
Oh, it's basically we were talking about how based on an IGN article about how the delay of The Last of Us Part 2 affects Ghost of Tsushima, and that leading us into a discussion of, it's already been confirmed to be a PS4 exclusive, but do we see remastered versions of those games for the 5 because what's coming at launch for the 5?
Well, absolutely. I think we're gonna get remastered versions of Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima. Hell, I think we're gonna get a remastered version of Spider-Man as well. I could even see God of War, because God of War was so successful. They'd be crazy not to make a remastered version
Or
of
do
that.
they launch with a remastered version of Horizon Zero Dawn and then release Horizon 2 months later after support has been drummed up for it?
No, I honestly think Horizon 2 is going to be a launch game because they're going to need a major title right out the gate. And I don't think anything that significant is going to be ready for that. Because I see us years away from Spider-Man 2. I see us years away from another God of War. Yeah, I don't see any major first-party title launch other than Horizon.
Because that was my point to Yield. I said that I expect that The Last of Us Remastered or Ghost of Tsushima to be remastered to be a launch title for the 5, unless they have a Horizon 2 ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this like a year or two ago when I did an interview with a Sony exec at PAX East. I asked the question because it was long debated between me and Donnie. Me and Donnie used to argue about this all the time. Is like, why are they remastering games? And my argument was, I believe that companies like Naughty Dog remastered Last of Us for the PlayStation 4 because it was a game that was done, that all they had to do was render it to the PlayStation 4, which gave them a leg up to learning how to develop for the PlayStation 4. So I do see remastered versions for these games, especially God of War, Spider-Man. I see them happening. Maybe a Ratchet and Clank game launch PlayStation 5?
I mean, Insomniac did have 2 studios, but now that they're under the Sony label and they made, Spider-Man, like what came out in 2017? No, it's 2018. Would they have another game ready?
I fully believe they're making a Ratchet and Clank game. Now, is it a remake of Ratchet and Clank 2?
You mean Going Commando?
The last Ratchet and Clank was it Going Commando?
Yeah, Going Commando was the second one. Up Your Arsenal was number 3.
Yeah, I mean, like, the last Ratchet and Clank game we got was basically a remastered version of the first game. I mean, that was also to coincide with the movie. Do they make a totally brand new Ratchet and Clank, or do they remake Going Commando? I could see that happening.
I don't think, if they're going to make Going Commando, I don't think it's a launch title. I think it's something that comes later on down the road. And if they're making a new Ratchet game, maybe as a launch title, but I think that they need something like Horizon 2. Because, like, people love Ratchet and Clank, but at the same time, it's not. It has been a series that has probably outlived expectations, and most series don't live as long as the Ratchet series has. I mean, you see Jack and Daxter. Sly Cooper is living on fumes. It's even a thing anymore. Ratchet & Clank has lasted since the PS2. It's outlived those two other franchises we're seen as like brother-sister franchises. So I think that coming out the gate, they have to have something bigger than Ratchet & Clank. I think that Ratchet & Clank is still a very fun game series. I think a lot of people would love that to have another game, but I think Horizon 2 is what you have to lead with. Especially since the last game came out in 2017, you would have 3 years, or more than 3 years, going on 4 years in between the launch of the PS5 and the launch of Horizon 2, or the original Horizon, so there would be plenty of time to make that sequel and get it done.
Now, it's not first party, but what if Rocksteady comes out with their new game and that's a launch title? Because the rumor is it's either a Justice League game or a Suicide Squad game. Because WB Montreal is rumored to be making a Court of Owls Batman game. What if Rocksteady's game is a launch title for the PlayStation 5 and that's why we haven't heard what they're doing? What if Sony has secured exclusive rights and that is why they're holding off to the PlayStation 5? That Rocksteady's game is not coming to the Xbox Scarlet. It's only going to be a PlayStation 5 title.
So, I think that talking about if you're leading with a launch title and you're expected to be a system seller, you know, Rocksteady is certainly a name and a game studio that can make a game that can definitely catch attention and, you know, get people to want to play a game and to potentially want to buy a console. A Suicide Squad game, though, is not going to do that. Unless Batman is involved somehow, I don't think any DC property, aside from Batman, could pull people in. I mean, like Marvel's Spider-Man, like you have to have a huge name in comics, and the Suicide Squad, I'm sorry, they don't move the needle. It may be a cool idea to have the Suicide Squad as part of a movie franchise or a game franchise, but as part of a universe, they work. As part, like, a lead title, like a AAA title for your new console, especially, like, when you're trying to reach all audiences. You're not just trying to reach, 30-year-old males. You want to reach everybody. The title Suicide Squad doesn't really reach to kids or to families.
What about a Superman game?
I mean, maybe, but Superman's just kind of boring. Does anyone care about Superman anymore? To be honest, the hot DC property is Batman, and the hot Marvel property is the Avengers, and more so Spider-Man. So honestly, like a Superman game, like I think Superman's too boring.
Well, I mean, when you look at what sells for DC, Batman is firmly in the lead, but Superman is second.
Well, what the hell else does DC have?
Well, they got with the WB series, they got Flash, they got Arrow. They got properties out there. I mean, not that me. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're anywhere close to what Batman's status is, but they definitely have big name franchises out there that they could push.
Okay, but I'm sorry, the Flash and the Arrow, when you're looking at, how well Marvel has built up and Disney has built up the Avengers, like when you're putting those people up against Spider-Man and Captain America and the Hulk and Thor, and Black Panther, I'm sorry, who gives a fuck about the Flash and the Green Arrow?
Well, I mean, okay, but to bring it back to video games, DC is still being successful. I mean, if you want to use an analogy, let's just say right now Marvel is the PlayStation 4, where DC is the Xbox One. It's still being successful, but because Marvel is so successful, it makes DC look bad.
Well, I mean, okay, so for the most part, DC's movies have not been successful. Anything set in the DC universe has not been successful. They may have had a few hits. As far as, video games go, Marvel, yeah. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for the Switch, I hear it's not that great. And a lot of the success of Marvel, recent success in Marvel will depend upon the Avengers game coming out from Ubisoft. Marvel Superheroes, Lego Marvel Superheroes was a lot of fun, but for the most part, Marvel's success...
Hold on. The Avengers game was made by Square Enix.
Square Enix, sorry, not Ubisoft. But for the most part, I mean, Marvel hasn't had a ton of success in video games. The most success of the two, DC's had more success in video games recently because of the Batman games. Okay, I said that, but I realized I'm an idiot because Marvel Spider-Man has outsold all of them. So, yeah, Marvel has had a ton of success, mostly because of Spider-Man. But when you talk about video games in DC, the only name that comes up is Batman.
All right, but going back to Rocksteady, you think if they launch their new game as an exclusive PlayStation 5 game, you think that's a possibility?
Well, it's a possibility. It just depends on. It really depends on what it is. I mean, I don't think a Suicide Squad game would really do it for people. Justice League, maybe.
Well, they do have a new Suicide Squad movie in development right now. So it could tie in that they released the game and the movie at the same time. All right, let's close out the show with some shout outs. Housekeeping.
Clean it up, Tricky. Clean this shit up.
ProvenGamer.com is looking for some writers, podcasts, video editors, news reports, and generalized help with the site. If you're interested in applying, go to ProvenGamer.com, click on the Help Wanted tab, and fill out the application, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. While you're there, be sure to check out all the articles and all the videos. Speaking of videos, they can be found on YouTube by doing a search for Official Proven Gamer. You can also catch us streaming at twitch.tv/ProvenGamer. If you're hearing this, I'm going to be doing another 12-hour stream for Extra Life on November 23rd? Yes, I believe. I'll tell you why I'm going to be doing that stream when we get further into the housekeeping. If you want to get a hold of us, there's several ways to get a hold of us. The first one is our phone number. Yield, what's the phone number?
330-PROVEN9. 330-776-8369.
You can also send us an email at the Troy Memorial email, trophyhorrors@provengamer.com. That's trophyhorrors@provengamer.com. Once again, that's trophyhorrors@provengamer.com. If you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, there's several ways. You can contact the site at Proven Gamer, contact the show at Trophy Horse, contact me at Tricky Mick, contact the Yield at I Yield to No One, and contact Alex at Saundersaurus Rex. Alex, you using Twitter anymore?
Yeah, but mostly to bitch about Pokemon Go.
10-4, good man. Yeah, I'm not really using my Twitter. Apparently, my Twitter's just turned into my PSN profiles updates. Which, granted, with all the visual novels, there was a lot of updates.
Now people know where to get easy trophies.
Yes. Well, if they could read Japanese. If you listen to this podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. But be sure to listen to our other podcasts, PG Spoilers and Game Stuff. If you notice, I did not mention Dual Screens. That is because they are officially on their own now. They have left the Proven Gamer Podcast Network. You can find them at dualscreens.com. All the podcasts can be found on Apple Podcasts, following iTunes, Stitcher, your various podcast applications on your smart devices, Google Play, TuneIn, and you can catch Trophy Horrors on iHeartRadio and Spotify.
And
if you want to get involved in our... And Pandora. Sorry. It's not in the agenda, that's why I forgot.
Pandora, we're in Borderlands?
Yield, why don't you put Pandora in the agenda there, sir? PlayStation 4 communities. There's one for the site called Proven Gamer. There's one for the podcast called T-Dubs Brothel because Shuhei, even though he's not in the role no more, still will not let us say horrors on the network. And you have Yield's group, which is the Platinum Guild. Yield, do you have your shout-outs ready for that?
No, I do not.
Boo.
That's what we can look forward to on Thanksgiving this year, folks. Family time, turkey, football, and Yield shout-outs.
Yield shoutouts, because that'll be like a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, because you got 50 platinums for me to mention.
Tricky got 50 platinums there.
That is the end of our housekeeping, but we do have some sponsors. Our first sponsor is Humble Bundle. Alex, tell us about Humble Bundle.
Humble Bundle is a charity initiative that bundles together digital media, video games, books, graphic novels, all this different kind of stuff, and sells it at a discounted price in these tiered bundles. So the more you pay towards the bundle, you can name your own price, but the more you pay, the more content you'll get. So if you go with the base level, $2 to $5, you may not get all the content in the bundle, but if you go $10, $15, $20, you'll get, say 9 or so games, which values out at around $250. So you're still saving a lot of money, you're getting a lot of value per bundle, and it is a charity initiative, so the money that you do pay towards the bundle in part goes to one of the charities that are represented by Humble Bundle that month. If you want to learn more, you can go to humblebundle.com to see what they're selling this month, and you can sign up for their electronic newsletter as well.
All right. Our other sponsor is Amazon. Yield, tell us about Amazon.
So, Amazon, besides being a big river in South America, it's also a place you go to buy just about darn near everything.
It's also a rainforest, sir.
And it's also a rainforest. Thanks, there, National Geographic. So, when you do your Amazon shopping, if you would take a little slight detour over to provengamer.com, on the side of the webpage, there's an Amazon ad. And if you click it, it takes you right to Amazon. You can do your ordering as normal. And a small proceeds of your order gets slid back to Proven Gamer. Helps us tidy up this new mansion that we got.
Or expensive mansion.
No, we got it on the down low.
You got it on the down low. Tricky's paying out the
Okay.
nose for it.
Alright, I was trying to be polite. Okay.
You know, one thing the Amazon.com website has above the Amazon rainforest and the Amazon River? It's got no fucking giant man-eating snakes.
Well, I'm sure they do. I mean, it's probably inflatable.
Okay. The snakes that you get from Amazon.com will not murder Danny Trejo. Or Owen Wilson.
All right. Our other sponsor is our Patreon. Patreon.com/Proven Gamer. There's different tiers you can go and support us at. No matter what tier you decide to support us at, it's greatly appreciated and helps keeps the lights on. And thank you to our Patreon producers, Felicia Steff and CJ Anderson. Also, Extra Life. If you go to extra-life.org, you can join us or join our team, make your own team. It is a 25-hour marathon to help support the beautiful kids in the hospitals and also other families. The good thing about Extra Life is the money goes to the Children's Medical Hospitals, in which none of those hospitals ever take a dime from any of the patients or their families, and everything is paid through donations. I mentioned that I'm going to be doing another 12-hour Extra Life stream, and that is because on game day, the Extra Life page was attacked by a DDoS attack. And a lot of the donations were not able to be made that day. So I'm going to be redoing another 12-hour stream to help raise some money. Currently, as I've heard of the updates, Extra Life this year so far has raised $11.7 million.
Who attacks a children's, like a website representing children's hospitals?
Whoever it is a scumbag piece of shit.
Well said.
So with that being said, let's close out the show with some shout-outs. Yield, go first, sir.
So I'd like to give a shout out to the Prince Mountains of the Horde. Thank you for downloading, listening, interacting with us. Shout out to Alex for recording tonight. Shout out to Tricky for recording in a big old truck in front of the Trump Tower, acting as a roadblock.
I'm literally putting my life on the line right now.
Literally, and getting anyway. And
You could have said that.
a shout out to Homer Gets Stuffed. His birthday's next week.
Nah, screw Homer. He don't play Rock Band.
That's it. I'm done. Peace out.
Alex, your shout out, sir.
Well, maybe if you bought Homer a bunch of DLC songs for Rock Band, he would be encouraged to come back and play.
Funny story. I actually bought him Rock Band 4 and DLC.
I want to give a shout out to the listeners, the fans, the fuel to the fire of this trophy horse. Thank you all for continuing to support the show. Without you all, we would not continue to do this. Be on iHeartRadio, be on Spotify, be on Pandora, and just continuing to grow our presence in the online world. Thank you very much for your continued support of the show. Give a shout out to the co-host, Tricky and Yield, especially Tricky for hosting while he's inside a giant dump truck that looks like a Decepticon. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my loving girlfriend, Ashley. I love you, honey. And, just thank you for another awesome weekend.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to the goddess who is sitting at home worried right now because I'm literally putting my life on the line right now. I'm a bomb deterrent for the President of the United States. Shout out to Sweet Mama D, who turned 11 since the last time you guys heard my voice. She is enjoying being 11 because she, as she quotes, she's no longer 10.
Can't argue with that.
I asked her, I said, what's the most exciting thing about being 11? She goes, I'm no longer 10. I said, why? You don't want to be 10 no more? She goes, because, Daddy, you keep telling me I'm 10. Now I'm 11. So, okay. Shout out to the listeners. Thank you very much for listening. You guys are more appreciated than I could ever express. The download numbers are exceeding expectations. They keep growing up. So thank you very much. I know we don't mention it a lot, but if you are listening to this, join our Facebook group, the Trophy Horrors podcast group on Facebook. It is set to private, but just request membership and you will be approved almost instantaneously. A lot of lively discussions in there. A lot of Alex giving me shit about my visual novels. I actually just posted a picture today. I thought Yield would like, but I guess he hasn't seen it yet. Did you see the turtles and the Death Stranding meme? Yield?
Yeah, I didn't really get it.
It's from the first Turtles movie. It goes, Pizza Guy's got 5 minutes, and on the bottom it's got Death Stranding delivering a package. He's like, "Fuck, I can't get there in 5 minutes."
Oh, okay.
So if there's nothing else, until next week, happy trophy hunting.
Bye.
Later.
Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.